Hello and welcome. It's time for another exciting review for Old Gods of Appalachia. Here we have episode zero point 0.5, The Witch Queen. Alright, so this one I'm really excited to talk about for a couple reasons. The first big one is that I adore the way that these stories are written out. They absolutely feel like old folk tales, which is clearly what they're going for, but it works really, really well. These feel like the kind of stories that have been passed down in my family. Now, granted, my family's not from Appalachia. My family's from Texas, but different, like middle south-ish. Texas is kind of its own thing, but so is Appalachia, right? So I'm not trying to say that, oh yeah, this appeals to me because of that, but it definitely has that same feeling as some of the stories that I was told. Specifically, I'm not going to get too much into detail here, but there was a story that I was told as a kid about a bear that had been released in the woods near where my grandpa lived, and this bear that had survived multiple shots of buckshot trying to keep the bear away from people's chickens, and just this story of this larger-than-life creature that never really goes away, even once you're old enough to be like, well, that probably didn't happen. There's still that little bit in the back of your head that's like, but it could have. Anyway, it's really well written. The Witch Queen is such an evocative title, too. And then that in the woods are two queens, and we only get told about one here, right? Really curious what's going on with the other, but just like the way it's described with the one that has her domain has the smell, the rotten cucumber smell of copperheads. That's such a good way to describe that. You know, it's so good. The undergrowth, and she's bent half the woods to her will. I really want to know about the other one too, but I'm desperate to know more about the daughter here, as we don't get a name. Really interesting start to the story too, and just a quick call out here too of she feeds on people and becomes more full of sap, which is a very specific wording, and it makes me wonder, is she becoming a tree, or is she's feeding the forest with that sap? Is it just a phrase and it's not actual sap and it's talking about the lifeblood? It's just a very interesting phrase. We're between Kentucky and Virginia, specifically in what would become Jacob County, Kentucky. So that's our first big, hey, here's where we are in the world. Some really fun stuff in here too. How the good people, the good Christian people, couldn't bring themselves to hurt this girl that they had branded as a witch, but instead spun her 12 times, one for each disciple, with a bag over her head, and pushed her out into the woods and let her rove and presumably they would assume, I think, die. Not exactly a very good Christian thing to do, but it happened a lot back then, unfortunately. And also the two sisters, definitely not sisters, but that would have worked as a good cover story for a while. That the doctor declares as witches because they can deliver a baby he's struggling with. That also rings true, unfortunately, and I wish it wasn't that way, but it happened a lot. However, in this case, they kind of were, right? Edith and Catherine, Edie and Kat, as they're going to be called, definitely taught their daughter everything they know, and their daughter is good at it. Also, Edith takes sick, she dies, and then Ma Kat just, throws herself off a cliff, basically. It almost seems like she was bringing up Edie's spirit to talk to her again, and that something either might have gone wrong there, or the realization that she can't bring her back, or something like that finally pushes her over the edge and she throws herself off. If not for the fact that the daughter says she's dead later on, I would have said, well, maybe she's not even dead, But the daughter makes it pretty clear that both of her mothers are dead. But also, I'm so stoked to talk about this. This spirit, as the daughter calls it, after she's already set up in the woods and she's got her jars with nails in them covered with various fluids, that are protecting her, right? Nothing can cross that line. The thing that comes to see her is a black buck. I am enamored with the idea of like the Lord of the Forest trope, right? A lot of people will bring up Mononoke as like the first time that they ever saw that. There was an old legend that was told to me from around here that has always stuck with me of a buck, a huge buck, bigger than any you've ever seen, whose face is rotting, that some hunters believed you had to give sacrifices to if you wanted to hunt in his woods. And I live in an area that is very, I was gonna say Christian. Let me say this better. I live in an area that claims to be Christian, and oftentimes the people are not, right? And so stories like that got stamped down very quickly. I would be told, well, that's not true. God wouldn't let that happen, and that's a whole other kettle of fish right there that I don't want to dig into today. I am a Christian. I'm not trying to demean God in any which way, but I'm also not trying to excuse the terrible things that Christians have done. Either way, the idea of this giant buck that probably isn't the Lord of the Forest here, right? It's probably one of the things that was talked about in the prologue, one of the things that they dug too deep and woke up because it was trapped in the mountains, but because they've dug into the mountains now, it's been fed again and it's alive because it mentions it could wait. It could wait as long as is needed, right? That's crazy cool. There's an old creepypasta that I read many years ago that has Yensa is the name that they use for like the Lord of the Forest buck. And that has stuck with me as well because the idea of a spirit that takes on the form of a giant buck to rule the forest, or at least to rule this section of the forest, is so cool, right? The one of the things that the legend that I was told about from around here was that if you kill a buck, you're expected to treat the body with respect, right? And take the heart and leave the heart behind for the Lord of the Forest, as it were, right? Just as this was the part that it had wanted. This was the part that was set aside for it, right? And I don't think that's what this is. I think this is 100% one of the things from the prologue, right? But it seems like this thing really either wants to make a deal with her or is very bored and could use her. Because it tries both times to trick her. Once as Ma Edie and once as Ma Katie. And neither one works. Obviously, the daughter sees right through them. She's very clever. I really like her as a character, by the way. I'm afraid she's going to be like a terrible villain moving forward. But just the realization that this thing tells her, well, no, we don't need you. We can wait for another. We can wait as long as we need to, actually. That's not a problem. We just thought you might be interested. And they offer her books, and they offer her tutors to teach her how to use her powers better, and they offer her the land itself. And also, this black buck has amber antlers with ash coming from. That's so cool. That is so cool. It says a name. We don't get to hear what it says. That it almost seems like just it saying its name, or at least a name it could be called, causes physical pain to the daughter. Horned head is what she winds up calling it. That's what she says it sounded like. And she ends it off by saying, what do you need me to do? It's just such an interesting premise. I know this is like half an episode, and we're going to get into the full episodes next, but for like a setup, this is so good. We're so tied in already with our own history and everything that happened with the jump to witchcraft from people that did not know anything about witchcraft and just assumed if something bad happened or if something good happened, it must be because of witchcraft. In this case, they were right, but, it didn't have to be that way. They could have treated the little girl better, and maybe things would have been different for them. But I don't think it's going to be good. I am so stoked. I already love this series, and a lot of it comes down to the writing, right? If you've never been around a copperhead, and you don't even know what a copperhead is, that phrasing's not going to mean much to you, right? But if you've ever smelled a copperhead, and they describe something as the rotten cucumber smell of copperheads, you're there. You're in that moment. You are right there. You know, and again, I'm not trying to say, "Hey, this appeals to me because it's good Southern stuff." No, it's Appalachia. It's different from the legends that I have here in Texas. The legends that we have here in Texas are very much a product of the peoples that have lived in this state, right? In this territory that became a state. Whereas it's the same way with Appalachia. The legends are very different. So I'm not trying to say that, like, oh, this appeals specifically to me. But it does appeal to me in the way of, hey, this is written super well. And we use phrases like, hey, it's the woods. It's not the forest. It's the woods. We use holler and things like that. So I love this so far. I am so stoked to see more of it. I wish I had more time. I would just record a whole batch of these and just boom, 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 so that I could get further in here. But I'm stoked. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Please don't spoil anything for me. But how do you feel about the daughter? Are you excited and think she's going to be a great character? Or are you worried that she's going to be a terrible, terrible person? We'll find out. Until next time, I've been Trey. This has been The Full Spectrum. Remember to always enjoy the full spectrum that old gods of Appalachia has to offer.